Okay. For those tuning in or going to watch later, welcome to our first live strategy solutions and sanity. I was just telling Bonnie, we're going to get to this, but she's like my business twin soul sister in a way, but also like business mama vibes. I was just telling her this is my first time going live ever, except for the few podcasters that have tricked me and not told me that their show was live until like the day of.
That's when you're like going like this, like, how do I look? You're still
Yeah.
zhuzhing a little bit.
And then, but you know what? Because I'm a people pleaser, instead of blaming them for not giving me the information, I'm like, oh, obviously it's my fault because I didn't research their show enough before I joined. Yeah. Okay, but let me give a quick intro into who Bonnie is and why I invited her to be like the first guest on the live version. First off, going back to like the business mama vibes. I knew my first time going live, if I royally effed up, I needed someone who would keep me laughing, who would just like, I trust to be a good human and also would like give me grace when I totally messed up. And when I put those three things down on paper, I was like, oh, Bonnie has to be first. I just think like all the times we've connected, whether it's on Zoom or in person, it's just been like such a fun time. And we're also both like, what are you doing? Do I know what I'm doing? I don't know. Let's just go with like, let's just figure it out. I don't know.
Real life, whatever.
Yeah. But then the second reason why I absolutely wanted Bonnie on the show is because a major theme of this year was not only vulnerability. I've been really open with people, like vulnerability has been a huge thing for me in 2025, but also embracing the concept of collaboration over competition. And for those that don't know Bonnie, or also don't know a little bit about what I do, Bonnie also has a virtual assistant agency who also has US based candidates and not international VAs, who's also based in the same metro area city as me, like not the same state, but like you're in the Denver area. And then there's all these weird personal boxes that also get checked. Like your husband's name is also Scott.
Like, if that isn't the universe and the Lord above telling us we need to be mano y mano sisters, I don't know.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh yeah, like we're both faith-based. And it's like every time we talk, like another box gets checked. And I don't know what possible other boxes we could even be the same on, but I'm sure something will come up today. So
the other one was I almost named my daughter Samantha, just saying.
Yeah, that was it. And I was like, I was almost named Amanda. My mom saved me from the name Amanda. I don't like that. But yeah, you almost named your daughter Samantha. So oh man, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you. And I feel like we've known each other for centuries and it's been less than a year, right?
Yeah, right.
So, okay, we're going to kind of dive a little bit into what the meat of the show is about, right? Which is all about like, hey, can we be vulnerable? Can we show the messy parts of business, but also can we give people some of their sanity back? And so we're going to be working backwards from the name of the show. So everyone, we're going to start with where we've lost our sanity, go into how we gained it back with solutions, and then go into, okay, what are the strategies we should be focused on now? So our big opener, Miss Bonnie, is tell us a time. I have way too many times, but we could just focus on one time for you that you totally lost your sanity in business.
Oh my gosh, this is pretty easy because something immediately popped into my head. So I tried not to rehearse or even think about it ahead of time so that I would be real and authentic. And what hit me the hardest was unrealistic expectations from a client.
Oh.
And I quite literally had a VA on my team in the emergency room. I won't go too deep into why, but it was a domestic dispute type situation. She's not only the emergency room, I say that, I'm gonna take that back. She was in the ICU. And, you know, as a business owner and a remote business owner, you're like, yes, or is she faking it? She's like, that's a really good story, you know, but I give people grace always, first and foremost. So I believed her. I knew this happened. I contacted her emergency contact. They were like, she's in the hospital. We don't want to give too much info, whatever. So I believed it. Well, she had just kicked off the week prior with a client. And I guess they had made a plan for what was happening that Monday. I think it was about Friday before that the client contacted me, as she should, as her, what we call her virtual account manager, which was my role in that trio. And so she contacted me and said, oh my gosh, where's my VA? Oh my goodness. So I I said, oh, I was just about to reach out to you because she's in the ICU. And this person immediately went into no grace,
Mm.
no understanding. Me, like, what are you going to do, Bonnie? And I had a plan, thank goodness. That's why we have this extra level. And that was me. And I'm like, I am here to help you. And then I listened to her expectations and what all they had planned. Well, not only myself, but my husband, Scott, you mentioned
Hi.
before, who is my CFO and CTO of the
Mhm.
company, also jumped in. And on Monday and Tuesday, we were this person's virtual assistant. The CEO and the CFO of our company played VA for 2 days, and she was still not pleased, still griping about this. Where is her VA? I don't
Mhm.
believe this VA. And the funny thing was, it was not a huge project. And so I did freaking lose my sanity. I lost it. And I am a calm, loving, gracious person, but being with people that don't show any grace or empathy for others, that's when I lose my sanity every single time. And that's just a little bit of the story, but that kind of gives you the gist of it.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this before, and every time I hear a story like this, it's always just like, I'm so sorry you had to navigate that. Because as much as we try to filter out the pitas, the pain in the asses, the pitas, right? And sometimes those pitas come with hummus and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we try to filter them out in that sales process. And like, it's really like I want to work with good people and good humans. And I don't want to like just invoice someone just to like collect that invoice, but like actually enjoy working with them. And so when clients like that come along, it's like, man, that sucks. And I'm so sorry you had to
Jesus
deal
take
with
the wheel, as they say, or
it. Yeah.
Jesus take the whole damn truck. I don't know what you're gonna say.
Like, I don't know what's happening. I can't, like, this is beyond my understanding. Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like, there are times when I have come home and I've complained to my Scott and I'm like, listen to this. And there's sometimes where like that venting, you get to the end and you're like, oh, what am I complaining about? Right.
Right.
And then there's sometimes you get to the end and the husband is like, that's what you have to deal with. Like,
Yeah.
you mean someone actually behaved that way? Like a child? Like what?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And it's also really tough, like when because you were just establishing that relationship with that
Yeah.
client.
Yeah.
Like,
It was brand new.
yeah, that's different when like, they haven't gotten a chance to see your working style. Like they didn't have a chance to know, like, Bonnie's going to have a plan. It's okay for me to like be a good human first. And they also had no concept of the trust with this VA to know like if they were lying
Right.
or not.
Right.
And also like, we shouldn't need pictures from the hospital to like know if someone's like, just
Exactly.
like accept that that's the story. Like, but I want to like
Right.
recognize.
We jumped in and you got the leaders of the company helping you. If that didn't speak to, who we were as humans, that we would do that and not just say, wait till she gets out of the hospital. We were
Yeah,
there for her. We were ready to get her another VA
yeah.
in place of the one that was ill, but she wouldn't give us a chance, just threw a complete tizzy.
You jumped in, and so like there's like this, okay, there's this really shitty moment, and then I also like want to recognize, for the client, like they have no concept of the working style, right? And so like we're still establishing trust and all of that, and so I want to go back to like we can filter out for the pitas, and so
Mhm.
sometimes these moments feel like very isolated, like when will this ever happen again? And sometimes it feels like, oh my God, here's another kind of difficult, not super compassionate client. And so, kind of going into the solutions, have you had to readjust some of like your sales filters for this, or was it really like a one-off thing?
It happens in many different ways. It's not that was a one-off specific way. So what I did as a solution is it only, everything is a lesson learned. So it only helped me, like you said, one, filter out who are not my people when I have that initial discovery call. If they make it past that discovery call gate into a kickoff call, then we are setting clearer expectations after that happened about even providing scenarios, like this is what we'll do if, contact me if this happens. And so we have so many of the if thens, in place now that we communicate and over communicate to our clients. And I think it might have been reactionary at the time, but now it is so proactive, and it just has bulked up the contracts and bulked up that kickoff call like nobody's business.
You know what? I want to I want to dive into that a little bit more because I know you're a people pleaser and I am too.
Yep.
And so where this shows kind of what you're saying is I'm hearing a lot of boundaries for clients, right? And which is awesome. Totally support that. I struggle with that. And the reason why I struggle with it is not always because I'm a people pleaser, but it's more of I show up, or at least I hope I show up with a super servant heart for
Same.
everyone in my circle. Which means that then when I am the client, I put really high expectations on others. And I'm like, pamper me, take care of me. What are boundaries? And then I still show up with grace, that I'm I try to communicate my expectations, but I think subconsciously, or I always still show up when I hire someone with the idea of I'm paying you to complete the service, to satisfy whatever needs are here, pamper me, I'm the princess, right?
Yes.
And so how for you, with either people pleasing tendencies or high expectations, how do you really set those boundaries and stick to them?
Yeah. And this is where I'm going to separate from our twinship and go more into the mom zone,
Yeah.
because it really comes with age and lessons learned, because I've had quite a few in 57 years and 40 years of work in dealing with personalities and unrealistic expectations, that as I get older, and literally as I do my own podcast and listening to the stories of others, I am just getting braver and bolder and just speaking what I need in a more stern voice, which typically in the past may have come from men. And I'm sorry, guys, love you guys, love you. But, I'm married to a man. So, hey, love men.
You're not hating here. No complaints with the Scotties of the world.
I can zone into the old style men that I used to support as an EA in corporate for 30 years. And I can just, what would Matt say? What would Paul say? What would, Tim say, my old bosses? And I'd be like, I'm going to just channel these guys right now and state exactly my expectations. I need you to, instead of, will you please do this? Reframing the way I say things, throwing that shiz into Chat GPT and asking it, how does this come off? Do I feel confident? Do I seem manly or masculine? Do I pull up that confident energy? And just using the tools that I have and passing it off my network if I'm still in doubt about the delivery. It's all in the delivery, folks, all in the delivery.
I love the passing it off to your network, because there was something that happened yesterday and I texted 2 different people and I was like, how bad would it be if I posted this on LinkedIn? And it was kind of my feelings about this. And they're like, probably pretty bad. You probably don't want to do that. But no, I get it comes with age, or it comes with at least experience, right? And there are times where I'm like, man, if I can't even set a boundary with my 5-year-old about no chocolate milk right now, if they can wear me down, then who else is capable of wearing me down?
1-year-old, just saying. No, I've gotten a lot better with boundaries with her, but that's a whole different Oprah.
Yeah, we don't got time for that on this show. Okay, so your solution to unrealistic expectations and people kind of really pushing the line on what's fair, even though they're paying you, and there's still that line of what's fair for me as the business. Your solution to that is emphasizing boundaries and those kind of rules and expectations early on into kickoff and onboarding.
Yeah, and I would ask something I've learned through my network and the people that have been supporting me is ask a lot of questions. And it always de-escalates a situation when you ask a question instead of saying, you did this. Say, how did you feel about what you just did? And, it can be that simple. If you turn it back on them, it's taking the pressure and the onus off of you and putting it in their laps. So that I have found changing a lot of my statements into questions instead. Don't catch me on that, people. I work for you in the future.
Like, no one listening to The Secret, put your earmuffs on.
Testing me with my questions. No, but it really helps me as a business owner, and it helps even the VAs on my team. I ask them a lot of questions. Now, I've met with this person. Are you okay with somebody with a strong personality or somebody that doesn't communicate super well or whatever the situation? That's how I make the match, is asking a whole hell of a lot of questions.
Yeah, and just I think first off, like when someone's first getting used to something like that, it just comes off as like curiosity, right? Which is awesome.
Right.
Then walls are down, they can answer questions. And as time goes on and as that relationship continues to build, whether it's clients or it's your team members, what I'm guessing is also that then they come to expect Bonnie's going to ask me questions. I
Yeah.
better have some answers here. And they naturally start to reflect. So are you noticing like those shifts with your team members or your clients as
Yeah,
well?
slowly but surely, but it's literally been a year and a half or two when I started investing more in myself as a CEO and putting aside that servant natured people pleaser I have always been, and really stepping into my CEO shoes and learning to delegate the other parts of my business that I used to be a little too soft in, to people that it's their zone of genius and they can do it better than me. So I'm just like working on myself, and it's been such a glorious epiphany time in my life that my mind shifts through coaching, through a coach I worked for 90 days. Shout out to Becky Claybaugh. Um, the people, and shout out to Brian Curlin, one of my clients that I have kept as his VA, even though it's not where I should be as the CEO of this company anymore. But I love working with him because it keeps me in the trenches, so to speak, with my people. And that's a valuable thing that anybody might take away from this as well. Stay in the trenches with your people.
Like I don't want to hate on other business models totally, right? Like what works for someone else obviously is not going to work for me because we're different people, but I do always kind of find it fascinating when someone is leading a VA team and or kind of and they don't really know what it takes to be an executive assistant or to be an admin assistant.
Right.
I'm not always still in those trenches, but I'm still like in like some of these management trenches with my clients and things. And so I'm always like, you've never been in that role. And so, yeah, you have learned to like manage and hire these assistants, but like, do you fully get like their shoes? And, like not, you don't always have to walk in someone else's shoes to understand them, right? That's the power of empathy and just
Right.
understanding and curiosity. But I do kind of always find that odd of like, how successful really are you in pairing people and matching those personalities if you don't know what the assistant shoes are like,
Exactly. Well, I don't know if I think I told you that my business started out as a recruiting firm. I left corporate to be an administrative recruiter. And the VA side just kind of smacked me in the face when I wanted to make some money in between recruitments. I was like, well, what do I know how to do? I guess I know how to be an executive assistant. Maybe 30 years later, I should know what I'm doing.
Maybe I have a little confidence there.
I've heard this VA thing. I think they're call center in the Philippines, and God bless you, my Philippines people. I love you. I love you. But that's all I thought it was, because I was this sheltered network or non-networking corporate gal. So I had no idea. But I found an ad on Craigslist and answered it and became a VA. And then I put it out to the world that I was this shiny new object pre-COVID, working from home, and everybody banged down my door because my network was all EAs from corporate. I want to work for you. I want to work from home. That sounds so cool. And then that's how I had the decision to stay in my recruiting shoes, but add a silo to my business as a VA agency. So I can do a little bit of both.
Yeah, what I really love about that is that it's a very tangible experience of like being open to opportunities. Because I think sometimes I hear that on some podcasts and I'm like, oh, thanks for this vague, abstract, up in the clouds nonsense. Be open to opportunities. I'm like, I need the opportunities in front of my face. Like, what are you talking, right?
And in between these recruitments, so what the heck am I going to do?
Yeah. And so like, you still went into it with a plan and then like went about whatever marketing or whatever strategies you had. And then these other opportunities came up to you and you said, yeah, that makes sense. And so that is like pulling those up in the cloud strategies down for me. Now, let me jump back a little bit because we skipped over some stuff that I think has some really great meat in it. So you said 2 years ago, you started really investing in yourself. And what I heard there was we got a coach, Miss Becky Claybaugh, who's super awesome and just if you don't follow her on LinkedIn, I will link her later. She just has such a gracious light about her. Sonia, so you invested with Becky and then you started delegating things. Is that what you're kind of defining as investing in yourself, or was there something else that happened there?
Yeah, no, I joined a couple of membership organizations to expand my network, and those were amazing. So I dipped in, I found my people, such as AKA Stan Prestige over there. I found my people from those membership organizations, and that was an investment in me. Like, if you think broadly of it, because I wasn't meeting people just randomly online, like I met my husband on match.com. There's no, customersforyou.com, like that.
Could someone start that new AI tech idea? Just
So, and that was investing in me because if there was a price for memberships. And so that was a monetary investment and a huge time investment. But I knew it was for the greater good because I would meet great people and I would bring people into the sales pipeline from just genuine conversations. And I could find the vendors that I needed from a smaller realm of people than the stratosphere out there of how many different vendors and professional service providers there are. So between the coach, the networking, and the third thing would be probably just investing in myself and my self-care. That's used a lot and overused. And I frankly, I'm sad that I even said that because
how woo of you.
Self-care. Okay, well, there's got to be another word for it, but I always take care of myself. And look, I did my hair for you and everything today. So I take care of myself, but if I could name it something else, I would, but it really is what it is. It's like, what am I going through in my head right now? And how can I step away from the chaos and the noise of my business that stretches me at times and sets me on that cliff? So that was another investment in myself, is stepping away on occasion, taking my vacations, doing those fun things that I was just all about the business, and hustle culture, not my thing.
No. Oh my gosh. That was such a big epiphany for me as well. About a year or two ago in business, I was always like, oh yeah, I'm going to make like this revenue by this point. Like I'm going to be, it's going to be awesome. Living luxurious, living the life. And then I was like, you know what? Like, actually the amount of work to get there, I don't think at least in this phase of my life, especially because I have little kids, I'm like, I was getting to a point of resenting my kids. And I was like, oh, look at these people that either they have grown kids or they don't have kids at all. Look at how long they can work. Look at like all the networking events they get to go to. I'm like, I can't even go to a happy hour without texting my husband weeks in advance of like, who's going to pick up the kids on this day, and
days.
Right? Like you got to get those daycare times set, right? And so I was kind of just comparing myself to everyone else that I felt like, at least on paper or on like online, seemed like they were doing so much better because they didn't have the restrictions of kids. And then I was like, oh, actually, I'm making decent money and I'm cooking for my family, like at dinner, and I'm like spending time with my kids, and I have time to read my Bible in the morning, and I have time for like, why would I like not be appreciative of this phase of or season of life, right?
I'm like feeling this right here, girl. You're just speaking to my soul. Even though I am on the other side, I am on the menno brain side, but there's a lot of different hormones going on for me over here that that was one of my networks I joined. I'm going to shout them out. Second Act Women, for any women in 40, 50, 60 plus, struggling with life, business, career, all that stuff. I am not a paid sponsor.
However, listen to this ad.
Free ad, Barbara Brooks, that I'm giving for you. It really helped me find my people. I don't use the word tribe. That sounds weird to me too. Yeah. I weird things in my head sometimes.
I think it's what is weird maybe is the things that end up being overused in marketing, and then it ends up being something that like you no longer feel any kind of alignment with, right? Like self-care, why should taking care of yourself feel weird?
It's something new.
Yeah, it's because it's been like jaded and kind of like completely owned by like a very woo crowd, which are not your people, right? Which is okay. Like let's, other people that will resonate. It doesn't resonate with you now because of how it's been used, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's investing in those groups, investing in like Barbara Brooks, who was on your Delegate to Elevate.
Yes,
see the coffee cup. I see your new neon sign as well.
Yes, and the funny thing about that neon sign, folks, just letting you know, don't order white because that is not even on, because if I turn it on, you can't even see it at the lowest setting. It's so bright, you can't see it. So anyway, that's just my little public service announcement.
Well, those are also the little things that we lose our sanity. Like when you are so excited, like when you put an Etsy order in or you get something and then you're like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then you open it up and you're like, what the just happened?
Everybody's looking at me. Why isn't your sign on? Well, let me go into the whole story. Let me go walk over here and show you that I have my sweatpants on underneath this beautiful shirt.
I know, right? I'm wearing a suit today because I have some meetings and I have my big girl pants on later. But I'm like, this does not feel authentic. Like I'm usually
girl jammy pants on. I love Zoom. I love video calls.
Let me also jump back, because one of the other things that I felt like had some meat on it when we're talking about investing in yourself, you also made the comment of figuring out the areas in business that you felt you were soft at. And so I want to understand, what did that mean for you? What were those areas? How do you feel about those areas now? Like, what was the evolution of that?
Yeah. So soft at the things I didn't know and thought, I can do this because I know how to do everything. Nobody can do it better than me. So the things I didn't know jumping into this business were sales. I don't know how to sell. How the hell do you, I just blindly went into business for myself saying, I need to find clients. How do you do that? So that's when I went to, like, that one client that I still support as a VA is a sales consultant. So who better than to mentor me in the sales department? And so that was something that I put into play. I also invested in his mastermind. I was in a mastermind group of multi-million-dollar sales executive, or not sales executives, just executives, professional services, mostly, I believe. For 6 months, we masterminded, and it was amazing. I learned so much from these people, going from $1 million to $3 million. Admittedly above my range, but but it was a great learning experience, and it was like learning from your peers. And sales was big for me. And then letting go of the things that I thought I liked to do was a soft spot for me that people were probably better at, but I thought, this is fun, so I think I should do it, like my social media. That is something I have delegated out since. It's now been delegated out for about 3-4 years. I'll still dip in once in a while just because it's fun.
I think that's like the most common things that most people that are experts in something don't appreciate is like social media and sales. Like those are, I think, the things that people invest in first. That's something I invested in. First off, I also invested in like how to build your agency. And it was all about like team building and it was all like the ops side. And I was like, why the hell did I sign up for this? I was like, this is what I do. Like, me too. Why did I invest in this at all? But I've also had like some sales experiences where I'm like, this also just went over everything that I already know. Like it wasn't new strategies. And so what I loved about your experience was you got to mastermind with people that were in different industries and in a totally different space than you. And I think what a lot of coaching programs or masterminds in general fail at is this idea of like, people will appreciate similarities for community. And all that does, in my opinion, and I could be totally wrong. Again, like if it works for you, it works for you. Cool. Not my people. Right. But what I think all it does is it gives 1 month of this honeymoon hype where you feel validated because someone else has the same shitty issues that you have to deal with. Right. And then after that honeymoon period, it's like, what am I learning from you that I haven't already learned in my own business? Because we're either in the same industry, dealing with the same type of clients, or we're at the same revenue point. So like, what? Right?
Not saying you're so spot on. I just have to say that is so spot on, because that's where I thought I needed to be at first too, was with my people that are doing the exact same thing at the exact same annual revenue numbers. But no, I had to learn the hard way by making that monetary investment or whatever it was, finding out that, wait, what the heck I already know how to do this. What am I learning here? So, being in the room with the people that you want to be, I have learned is a better space for me.
Yeah. And so on that, and I'm digressing a little bit because I'm loving the path of this. When you show up in a room where there's people that are doing substantially better, right? Where, hey, this is like a $3 million company. And like when I talk to people that have substantially more revenue, it's usually in the sense of like, okay, like you're going to be a client. Like I'm not fazed by your revenue. Like you don't seem like some big, bold CEO just because you have $1 billion revenue or whatever, right? But when I talk to other service providers or other consultants that are like doing super well, that's when I get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And I'm like, oh, I better step up my game or like whatever. Right. And so how did that show up for you and how did you navigate that?
Oh, wow. The biggest imposter syndrome for me is having been just a secretary for 30 years and coming in thinking and trying to convey that I'm the CEO now. And what I always say, like on my podcast, is there was a lot of never say nevers that have all happened.
Yeah.
And the first one was I never want to be a CEO because I always worked for CEOs and I saw what they did and had to do and all that they had on their shoulders. And, but I am now. Never wanted to do a podcast. And now I do a podcast. Never wanted to write books. So that's my biggest word. If I really, truly, it's another cliche saying, never say never, but so true. And so my imposter syndrome was really big at the beginning, but again, with age and experience and lessons learned, that imposter syndrome is shrinking every day. Now I'm just like living in my zone. I am who I am. I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah. Right. You're brave, you're bold, you're shining, right? We're glowing even though the neon light is not on. Okay, so with that investment in yourself, with like under being vulnerable about the areas that you were soft in and wanting to learn or delegate those, you mentioned that like that all helped you to really then sit in the CEO seat. So what does the CEO seat mean for you now?
Oh, absolutely. It means time. Like I don't know what to do with the white space in my calendar anymore because I've been I'm a little braggadocious here, but I have delegated to at least 7 people in my company all the things I didn't want to do or the things that I was not the best at. Doesn't mean I can't dabble in them, like I mentioned earlier, but it has given me freedom to be a visionary, do things like this that bring my soul and my heart happiness. And that's what I need in this second act of my life because I've been through all the crap in the past. Like I could Jerry Springer my 20s. I have been through it and I just am not there for it anymore. And so I am enjoying the white space and I am blocking it on the calendar because it is for me now to decide what I want to do with that space. And that's been life-changing, career-changing for me. But one piece of advice that I can almost give to myself and to others, don't always have to fill that white space. So I'm like, okay, what else can I do? And then I look at my calendar the next day and it's full. Oops.
Oh my, listen. Okay, so I appreciate that because this past Monday, I had maybe like 2 things on my calendar and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do today? Like, this is a lot of empty time. Let me tell you, all of a sudden, yesterday, today, and then Monday through Wednesday of next week, I'm like, when will I eat lunch? When will I go pee? I don't know.
Say that. Oh, let me hear you say that because that's the exact examples I give to people when I talk to them. Like when I talk to that guy I support, I'm like, did you go to the bathroom today? Did you have lunch? Did you like, there's your mom zone right there for sure.
Yeah, right. I'm like, I don't know. But I think also like, on that, like, oh, then how will I have the energy to cook dinner? Like there are times, listen, there was a time I didn't even realize I was out of olive oil for like a week or 2 because I wasn't cooking because I was so damn busy. We just like ate dinner out.
Yeah.
Like, or we got like, I mean, I'm right by a freaking Chick-fil-A noodles and Chipotle. So my willpower is at an all-time low because I could just walk across the street and get Starbucks and all of it.
Oh, nice. I'm jealous.
The fact that I didn't even know I was out of olive oil just speaks to where my habits have fallen. Okay. Like, what?
Oh, I have to help you. Gosh, you're just, my heart is like, that's why I'm an EA. I was an EA for this. I just am that servant natured. I've got to help people when they struggle like that. So that's when me myself, I turn introspective and I'm like, Bonnie, this is what you've been helping people with. Stop doing that. I'm like,
What?
why are you
Yeah.
doing it? You tell them not to. So it's that whole do what I say, not what I do thing.
Mm.
You know?
Monkey say, monkey do, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you know what? Let me also call out something here because yes, like my calendar is a little bit packed for like the next foreseeable future. But I think I'm also like in just a season of my life where I also enjoy that. I don't enjoy maybe some of the personal habits I let slide when I am this busy. Like that just comes down to just, I think, accessibility of what all is around me. But I am in a season of life where I do enjoy being extremely engaged with my clients. And so you're in a season of life where you want to be the CEO, you want to be in this visionary space. I will say when I took that agency course of like, why the hell did I sign up for this? A big thing was like, well, let me implement what I'm learning because I'm spending all this money, right?
Mm.
And then so I started delegating and I started putting all these layers between me and the clients, and I like absolutely hated it. It's like, why? Like, this is not what works for me. This doesn't make me happy. We
Right.
also have someone that's saying like that white space is truly the most important space. Strategic and visionary thinking and planning don't just happen, right? Like,
Right.
you
They
need
don't.
to have that time in your day and like not fill it up and like give yourself the grace to work on your business.
Yeah.
So with all of that white space, what new strategies or ideas besides the super cool podcast that you've launched in the past few months, what else is like cooking up for you?
Well, there is a third business starting, probably starting before the end of the year. It's coming off of the podcast because I've been listening to what my guests are saying. And so I'm going to try and fill that gap to be announced. It's secret.
Top
Um,
secret.
announced, but it's really playing to my strengths and it's playing to the coaching that I've had. The consultant I worked with on the podcast knew her stuff and she helped me think of how to go beyond the podcast. And the podcast is separate from my VA agency. And I did that with complete intention because there was one of my never say nevers. I never want to do a podcast because I don't want to copy everybody. That was my inner thoughts, but some random person who I now love to death because she did it reached out to me on LinkedIn. I love your voice. I love your presence. You need to do a podcast. So I'm like, there's that imposter syndrome again. But I have loved doing my podcast. And so this thing that's going to spawn off of my podcast is getting me very excited. And so that's to come. But yeah, it's just been stepping into those uncomfortable zones. I've actually gotten on some stages, which is crazy. I was such a scaredy cat to speak publicly ever when I was younger, but now that confidence, that everything I've been through in life, it just, who cares what people think. Have you seen that We Do Not Care Club? You probably haven't. There is on TikTok, there's this woman, I'll have to try to remember her name, the We Do Not Care Club. And she's hilarious. And it's about women over 40, 50, 60 plus. And we just do not care anymore. And that really helps.
That is a common sentiment I see in a lot of messaging and social media with like women of that age group anyway. But I think that goes back to the theme earlier of like you've left yourself open to opportunities. And first off, I want to say that I find it so ridiculous that you're like when someone told you about a podcast because you absolutely love talking to people. I think like we met because you came up to me and I like showed up to a networking event and I was like, and you're just like, right? So like that just feels like such a natural seat for you that I find it funny that you balked at it at first.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. So really the strategy that you're like continuing to lean on now and moving forward is really on that being open to opportunities, being open to like what makes sense for a new season of life. And the ability to do that without caring what other people think is like, oh man.
Fun. I have fun on my podcast, and if you guys haven't caught Sam on my podcast yet, you better look for that episode. I please.
Oh my gosh. I think I was on a networking call the other day and it was someone that I was following up with after like this in-person conference that I went to earlier in June. And they're like, oh, I loved your energy. Like you just showed up in a way that felt like people, like you didn't care what people thought, like you're just authentic. And I was like, I really appreciate that because I've been working on that. And I was like, also like, when you spend so many years saying like the worst things about yourself, what else can other people say? And I don't mean that like in a self-pity way. I just mean that like in a natural growth, things that come with experience.
Self-deprecation is normal. I think it's completely normal for people to
Oh
self-deprecate.
my gosh. I was on some like mastermind and I was like saying like this is my problem. And I was like making jokes about myself as I was like talking about my problem. And they were like, well, let's just take the time to like not do self-deprecation jokes. And I was like, that's my entire personality. If you take that away from me, I have like no humor. Like, why would you? I will hold on to that. Thank you very much.
Look at the success like comedians have found in self-deprecation, just saying,
I know, like if you have cancel culture and you take away all the things from them and then you tell them to also be healthy people and not have self-deprecating jokes,
right?
what will someone have comedy about, right?
We're going to find our people from this conversation, Sam. I can tell you that.
Hopefully I'm not like turning people off. I don't know. We'll okay. So also on that, you said something and then you like very quickly went over it. So in addition to the super top secret business thing, I also heard when you were saying like the never evers that you've said. How do you phrase that? You said the word book. Are you writing a book?
I've already written in 2 books.
Okay.
And they're on my LinkedIn profile if anybody pops over there. I wrote another random LinkedIn. So this is the power of LinkedIn, people. Yes. A random LinkedIn person reached out to me. Do you want to be in a multi-author book? I'm like, I've always loved to write. But again, there's that imposter syndrome. But I'm not an author. What the heck? I can't write. I don't even read. And that's a little self-deprecation. You mean you wrote?
Pick up a book. That would be helpful.
They're pretty on my shelf, but so the first book is called Phoenix Rising, and it's a book. It's a collaboration of women all across the world. The publisher was in Australia, and it's about women who come from adversity to find their place. So for me, I immediately went to those 20s that I mentioned that decade about earlier and wrote in that book. And then sure enough, after I invested in writing in that book, then she said, I have another book coming out called Corporate Dropouts. I'm like, oh, dang, that should have been the one that I was in. And so I invested in myself again and wrote a chapter in Corporate Dropouts because that totally epitomizes what I did. Totally dropped out of corporate.
What was like because there are some people like when they're talking about strategies for other people and being a CEO, everyone's always like journal, right? Yeah. And like the power that comes from that. But I'd also just want to like understand what came out for you, like either evolution or power or like new insights of writing these chapters.
Well, it really pulled out a bug inside me that you do like to write, but you just don't have enough time to do it, which that was a few years back. So what it did was when I wrote in the first book about my personal story, and I had to keep it to a certain number of words and characters, I was like, I could go on and on and on. And then like, whatever. Then I wrote the second book about my business life journey, my career. And I was like, boy, if I just put these 2 together and each chapter became or each paragraph became a chapter, I could write an entire book. But then but who wants to read about me came into my head. So I'm not listening to that. I'm like, shut the hell up, girl. So at some point I feel like I'm going to combine those 2 books into my story and hope maybe even, I don't know, fictionalize it. Let's make it into something funner, more fun. Let's do that. That might be something. I wouldn't say that I'll never say never on to that. So there could be a book of a combination of both.
I feel like you're never allowed again to say that you'll never do something.
Never allowed to say never.
Every time you say it, it just pops up into your life, right?
It does. So maybe it's a reverse thing that I'm never going to be a millionaire. Never.
And I would absolutely want to read a story about you because I think, on top of all the self-deprecating jokes, on top of like these really like shitty moments happened and all of those, like there is, I think, such beautiful light and such beautiful like lessons and grace in like who you are day to day and like how you show up for people. And so I would 100% be one of the first people to buy your book. And I don't buy everybody's book. Like I've bought very few books from like people I know because I'm like, cool, good for you. I'll post and promote it. But like, I don't know if your story is worth telling in all honesty, but I honestly would
thank you. Well, take a look at the chapters in Phoenix Rising and Corporate Dropouts, and then you'll
and then judge it.
Understand. Feet won't go together.
Um,
Right.
so let's wrap up a little bit, right? So we lost our sanity with unrealistic expectations. We found the solution with boundaries, with really understanding the value of what you're providing and where you need to sit as a CEO and investing in yourself and all of that. And the theme, the strategic theme through all of it was really being open to opportunities. And so for those that are maybe struggling to see what opportunities are even available to them, like maybe they're waiting for a big ass door and maybe a barn door that you just have to slide and not even like turn the handle on, right? For the people that are waiting for that, and maybe we need to just find that little window.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for those people that are struggling there?
Yeah. Let's just be brave. Be
Mhm.
brave. Like it's no risk, no gain. And learn how to accept the word no, which is so hard, but it happens. And I'm not going to lie, it's hard. I've cried over no's, I've had mental breakdowns over no's, but afterwards, and getting past them a couple of weeks later, I've gotten bolder and braver. And be brave. Just watch those people on LinkedIn that you just are like in awe of, and reach out to them and let them know, engage with them and tell them what you like about their stories. You never know who's going to latch onto yours too. And then you're going to find a great connection that can lead to business, that can lead to friendship, that can lead to collaboration. Gee, like I did that. There's so much like, sorry, when people at my jobs used to call me Bonnie on the spot. That's why I don't rehearse when I talk to people, because I'm way better on the spot. But anyway, yeah. So be brave, be bold, try, take a little risk.
Yeah, and like on that concept of like don't be afraid of the no, like what's the worst that can happen? Like reach out to the people on LinkedIn that have 10, 20,000 followers, because sometimes they have a lot of great engagement on their posts, but they actually have pretty slow messages and they will get back to you. And so, and also
They've delegated their inbox to somebody else who will
probably,
for follow-up.
right? And even if they don't get back to you, that's the worst that will happen. They
Right.
don't get back to you, right?
Chances
Like
are I'll forget I even reached out.
like someone messages me, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I love that you popped up in my inbox. Like I get a little attention, a little self-esteem boost. So you want to make my day, message me in the morning,
The publisher of my books and the podcast lady. Look what it's done for me. They were both cold outreaches to me.
Oh, I feel like we need a whole other podcast on like cold, right? Which for anyone who has not already registered for the Get Your Shit Together Summit, which I'm so glad that you're going to be a part of it. We have a CEO panel of local and regional or national CEOs who are also going to describe what cold pitches have worked and that they've paid attention to. So I'm super excited for that. That's my little shameless plug at the end of this. Okay, Miss Bonnie, my business soul sister, my business mama, thank you so much for helping me have such a fun, good first live that was just packed of awesome stories and awesome wisdom. And this was just a wonderful way to kind of, I think, wrap up my week because it's holiday 4th of July week. So this was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
My little soul sister child.
All right. We're going to hop off now.
All right. Ta-ta.